This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
Y'all ready?
I'm doing this one for the culture.
Yeah, this is for the culture, for the culture, for the culture. Welcome to the ride, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy, Big Mike, 98.9 FM, Radio for All, presents another edition of For the Culture. Hopefully y'all doing good out there. Hopefully your Saturday's off to a great start. We're going to jump into our food for the culture, and we're going to stay there for a minute. Back partnering with Little Moments Count for a great experience. So let's get it going. All right? This episode is presented in partnership with Minnesota Public Radio and Little Moments Count. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information after the interview, you can visit at littlemomentscount.org, littlemomentscount.org. KRSM is excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count to host conversations focused on early childhood development. We'll be welcoming a new guest each month to talk about their involvement in Little Moments Count and how they view the role of early childhood development in creating bright futures and strong communities. Yes, good food today. Today we have Sarah Warren in studio. Sarah Warren is an award-winning children's book author and preschool teacher. She loves to share stories about cool women who use their everyday powers to change the world. Sarah is also the co-founder of Picture Book Parade, an organization that promotes literacy, love, and diverse local authors by hosting storytelling exhibits in unexpected places. You can find more about Sarah at sarahwbooks.com and picturebookparade.com. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sarah to the show. Hold on, Sarah, don't say anything yet. Give me 1 second. There's the button. Boom. Now you should be good.
All right.
Welcome. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you, Mike, for this. All right, if you have not been in this space, there are good vibes everywhere. This feels good to be here, and I'm so excited. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to Little Moments. I'm excited for this conversation.
I am too. I'm glad to have you walk in and recognize you're in good space.
Yeah.
That's what we want. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. You cool with that?
Yes, please.
All right, so can you explain how learning and play intersect for young children and why both are crucial during this developmental stage?
Well, I love this question because I started out as a preschool teacher.
Okay.
And that was the most important, best job I ever did. And one thing you learn is play is learning. And, I think that's actually true for all of us, grown-ups, kids. We all learn when we're playing. That's when we do our best learning because we're motivated. We're up to the challenge. We're testing. We're exploring. We're curious. We're interacting, and we're building these positive relationships because we're feeling positive. I don't learn when I'm not motivated, and kids don't learn either, They're also, when you're playing, you're not stressed out. Mm-hmm. And how many stressed out people are in this world right now? When kids are stressed, they're in their reactive brain. They can't think, they can't retain, they can't focus, they can't do all the stuff we're demanding that they do all the time. And when they're less stressed, they can relax into it. They can build, they can grow, they can make mistakes. They can be flexible, all that stuff. It matters so much. And I think selfishly, it's good for us too as adults, when, focusing on play as a form of learning, because we get stuck. I think it's scary to not be the dictator of every moment. It's scary not to say, all right, I'm gonna create this space. I'm gonna create all the activities. I'll be in charge. I'm gonna push my agenda, and instead following a child's lead and letting them be in charge, letting their curiosity take the lead. That is a powerless feeling when you're a grown-up who thinks they need to know everything. But when you kind of submit to the play,
yes,
you can admit, I don't know everything. We're going to discover together. We're going to be collaborators in this. And it's actually good for you as a grown-up to admit those things and just, become a playmate yourself. And not to put pressure on it, because it's I have a child. I was the best parent in the world before I had my son. When I was a preschool teacher and just judging other parents, I was the greatest parent on the planet. When I had my own child, I realized it is hard, sitting down and playing cars with a 3-year-old child. I'm not built for that anymore. It'll be 2 minutes. It'll feel like 5 years have gone by. So as an adult, realizing you can just do short bursts where you are the playmate, where you're kind of interacting, supplementing what's happening, adding on, and then you can dip out for a little bit. But yeah, play. All of us, we need play.
So you mentioned something about the agenda.
Yes.
And the agenda is so weird because I teach music.
Okay.
Right? So to have an agenda as an adult, you come in and you want them to do all this stuff, yes, and then it just, nope, we don't want to do this.
Yes. Yep.
We want to do something else. And then to have to pivot,
mm-hmm,
you say powerless.
Yes.
It's actually like a double-edged kind of thing, because yes, you're powerless, but you also have so much power in being able to give in to this young person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's creativity, that's the part of it too. You're not following creativity. It's not an easy thing to do, mm-hmm, you really have to have faith, and you really have to be able to be okay with, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of unknown. And I don't think that's, especially now, we're so used to everything being fed to us, being comfortable. Being mm-hmm. uncomfortable is not easy, but it's so good. It's so good for us.
Okay, as a former early childhood educator,
mm-hmm.
what strategies do you recommend for parents to incorporate storytelling and reading into their daily routines with young children?
So I think, books are the best. And what you want to focus on, especially when you're working with really young children, is it's not about the book. It's about the interaction. You have this potential interaction that can just be full of love and joy and no pressure. I'm a writer, so I write those words that are in the books, and I'm giving everyone permission. You do not have to read all the words in the book. If you want to skip words, if you want to tell your own story, if you want to focus on the illustrations, take a journey with the book that's more about, the relationship that's built through the journey. The book is an artifact. It's a cool thing.
Wow.
It's just a thing. It's not about that. It's about the relationship that's built in enjoying the book. And I also think, pick books that make you look like a comedic genius. That was when I was exhausted with my son, Sandra Boynton, those books, they made me look like a star. It made me feel like a star. I was going to try to name a comedian. I'm I don't know what's appropriate to name her. but pick stuff that's going to make you feel good and make it fun. We've got Don Quigley, who writes the JoJo McCoon's books. We've got Steve Shaskin in our community and the Twin Cities, who writes Pizza and Taco. We've got David LaRochelle and Mike Winutka. We've got a lot of authors, the big, Mo Willems, all these writers who are going to just allow you to have this positive experience where all this literacy is happening, but mostly you're just happy. You're having fun, so take that pressure off. But also you can be intentional in those moments and still have fun. So you can, pick up a book, accidentally have it backwards, start reading it, and your kids, what are you doing? It's backwards. And then you can teach them book and print rules. You can say, oh yeah, you're right. Here's the front of the book. Here's the back of the book. Oh, wait, it was upside down. Oh, wait, here's the middle. The beginning, the middle, and the end. You can track as you're reading. You can ask open and close-ended questions and have it be natural and just know that interaction is loaded with learning, but it's also doing the more, I think, important work of building a relationship between you and, either your students or your child, where they're having a positive interaction with a book, which is you're going to build on that for the rest of their lives.
I love that the book is just a thing.
Yeah.
The book is an artifact.
Yeah.
It's really about the connection that you're making with this young person. Never even thought about it like that. And my kids like to read. My daughters are actually not in Studio B, but in the office here right now.
So cool.
3 of them, at least. My 20-year-old, my 8-year-old, and my 3-year-old, and they're all avid readers. Like even the 3-year-old would rather pick up a book than a toy.
Oh, good work. Good work, Dad.
Look, mom is gonna get the credit for sure. For sure. They're reminding me about the joys of reading, and then you giving me the freedom to know that it should be about the experience with them over anything. The other day I found myself reading, so my daughter picks up The Cat in the Hat, and she starts to read out loud.
Oh, wow.
And I've known the book for years,
Yes.
to the point where I know the book. So she starts to read the words, and I pick up where she stops, and I start just reading, without looking at the book. And she starts to look at me, and then she turns the page, and I'm still saying the words. And then she turns another page, and I'm still saying the words. And she's like, how do you know that? And then it became a thing.
Yes, yep.
So,
and you look like a star. And you can be like, yep, and I can read your mind too, so watch out.
yeah.
I've got dad power.
Dad power for sure. Great. So you mentioned that during your own childhood, there were hardly any books with positive characters that look like you or your loved ones, and this is big for us too. How did this influence your decision to write stories featuring real-life heroes and trailblazers that children can relate to?
So I think, weirdly for me, growing up, I got really good at projecting myself onto other people with different backgrounds, for better or for worse. For worse, being I didn't see myself. I didn't see my background being lifted up. But, I think the positive that came out of that is I got really good at seeing the world through other people's eyes. And I think, there are a lot of communities who are forced into that position a lot. If you're white and you can look at whiteness everywhere and you don't ever have to change your perspective. It's the norm. You don't have to shift your consciousness at all. That's a way of being very stuck. I think it can be a real benefit to have to see the world through other people's eyes. You should not have to be forced to all the time, though. And so I think my parents, I'm 47.
Okay.
So my parents and grandparents, they filled my life with stories, oral stories. So my dad and my grandmother were civil rights workers. So for them, they were proud of our blackness. They were proud of my black mixedness. They wanted to make sure that I knew about the people in my history that, came before, and that I stood on the shoulders of giants. And so they just told me those stories. And I think because of that, because I was hearing stories about real people that were, that I could see pictures of, that I knew about in the community, that did kind of plant the seed of, okay, here are people who are using their everyday powers to change the world. It seemed very, very actionable. Yeah. I could do something. I could actually. It's a real person. I see and I can be. And so I think that really planted the seed.
See, and that reminds me, if not, it should remind the listeners that it kind of starts with us, right? Like if you're an elder at all to a young person, and it's okay. You ain't got to call yourself an elder to be older, right? If you're older, the things that you know, they might not know, right? Yeah. So tell them these stories. I also remember a time when I was younger and being exposed to real people that were in books, but these were real people.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, so much of what I know did come from an elder teaching me, and then I kind of just went and got the information after they had exposed me to it already.
Yes, yeah. They get you on the path.
They get you on the path.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so as you observe your preschool students, what gaps did you notice in representation within children's media, and how do you think this impacts young children's self-perception?
Okay, so this is where I really got started with thinking about, creating media. Because as a preschool teacher, I got my start at the YWCA Children's Center in downtown Minneapolis. It was a great program. It's not there anymore, unfortunately. But and I noticed my students were obsessed with superheroes. It's pre-K kids.
Yeah.
And we had a no superhero play policy.
And
it was I don't know why we picked that hill to die on. Like, that was just it was ridiculous, because we were constantly in battle with these kids who were excited. They weren't allowed to wear a superhero costume, so they would come in their Spider-Man PJs. They'd be doing little, hidden, web shooting and web slinging and all that stuff. And we would have to either turn a blind eye or crack down. And I started to think, let's investigate this. What is this play, like we talked about, this play, learning's happening here. What kind of learning's happening? And so I realized, like, they, that age group, they are all about justice and right and wrong and autonomy and power, all these things. That's what they were, like, testing and figuring out and exploring when they were doing this play. And I thought, well, I can probably engage that if I talk about real life heroes and leaders, especially heroes and leaders that, look like us, that look like our moms and our grandmothers and our dads, and people that I don't see in the media that is available. And there just weren't a lot of books, especially for real young kids. And the books that existed were usually what you call like a cradle to grave biography.
Oh, wow.
So it's, this person, George Washington Carver, was born on da-da-da-da-da.
And then he died.
Pretty dry, and then he dies. And the people inside the books were very idealized. So you just see how they're born, the incredible, great, big thing they did, and then how their lives end. And you didn't really see the network of support, the community that raised up that person and allowed them to kind of be that trailblazer, that challenged things, that changed things. And so I think one of the damaging things when we talk about self-perception is, like, if you're from a community that's been absented or marginalized, you don't see yourself. And when you do see yourself, it's negative imagery. And then the only time you see yourself is with this, like, almost altruistic Jesus-like figure, that doesn't seem human, that's perfect. You then, like, how can you ever achieve that? How can you, like, you can't, if the only way I'm going to be valued is if I'm absolutely perfect and, like, this superhero-like figure, I mean, I think it shuts people down.
It does.
It makes people not want to try. So when I came at it, I thought, well, how can we make these people real people? We can talk about celebrities. We can talk about incredible people. Let's break down how they actually got to where they are, and that community that's around them, because it wasn't just them, and actually make this feel like more of a possibility. Make them real people.
So much. There's so much there, because you're right. A lot of times we only see ourselves in one way. And I don't know if it's meant to be like that, but, like, it's hard to only see yourself this way, and then all of a sudden someone tries to expose you to something different that shows you a different way that you can see yourself. And it's hard to kind of shut that off.
Yes.
The old thing that you had been taught for all these years, and, like, no, I have to embrace this. I get to embrace this new thing that this person's trying to show me. And sometimes it might take a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why we got to feed it like this, what you said, like this is good food. It's nurturing, it's nutrients. We got to keep feeding kids, in all kinds of ways. So, and we can't just do biography. I usually write biographies. It can't just be that. It's got to be positive imagery.
Yes.
It's got to be all the food, all the food groups. We got to get it all out there, all in them.
See, Sarah's embracing. Yep. She's embracing the food. It's food. It's all food. All right. So, and I love these questions. Right. So, talk about what the Picture Book Parade is and some of the stories featured that promote literacy and inclusivity.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, Picture Book Parade started. Pandemic project. I had gotten money from the Minnesota State Arts Board I was doing story times at Moon Palace Books.
Okay.
And
Shout out to Moon Palace Books.
Moon Palace, it's the best. And so I had gotten money to bring in other BIPOC authors and illustrators to do story times. Then, the pandemic, we had to go online, and that just wasn't the environment I wanted to try to do these story times in. And so I was desperate for a way to, get us together in a safe way where you could still have these really impactful interactions between artists and young people and families. And so I collaborated with Catherine Erdahl, a fellow writer from the area, and we went to the library. So we said, how do you do story strolls? So if you haven't seen a story stroll, you just a book is put on these signs.
Okay.
So you can walk along and read the picture book outside. Usually, I don't know, they can be anywhere. I'd seen them mostly in nature settings where you're just kind of walking around a nature path and so we learned how they did it, and then we just decided we are going to get PDFs of the permission, get PDFs of books, print them off on lawn signs, and we're going to set up some lawn sign story times. And so we, in May of 2021, I was still in partnership with Moon Palace Books, and they had a partnership with Midtown Farmers Market. They were housing the market on their side patio for until a new space was ready. The new space was being built. So we did not know what we were doing. We just printed up for 26 artists every Saturday. We printed up their books on these lawn signs. We stuck them in the boulevard, which was rock hard. We broke our stakes. We just would put up these big displays because we were okay, now we can get together around these books. It's safe. We're outside. We were in the shadow of the 3rd Precinct that had burned during the uprisings. So there was all this community energy around, we need something new. What are we going to build here? What are we going to make together as a community? So there's this real positivity, even though there's still a lot of fear with COVID and everything else. And I had all these books because as a part of my story times, I'd have books for all the kids so they could do their own reading along as we read together. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to give these away. We might never be able to get together again as groups of young people. We still didn't know what the world was going to be.
Right.
And that became this integral part of Picture Book Parade because we had this table full of books, of curated books that, kids and families would enjoy. And then you've got authors or illustrators standing around helping kids match up with their perfect, keep forever book. And people would walk by and read the story stroll. They'd come by us. They'd get a free book. I remember that first year, one of the most powerful things that I was we don't know what we're doing. Is this even a thing? What's happening? It just felt so rough. But I remember one time we had this incredible book called When Everything Was Everything. It's a book by Saimukta Vongsai, who is a local playwright, author, everything artist. She's fantastic. And she is Lao American, and Lao is incorporated into the book. So I had the signs up, and I was, of course, eagerly watching everyone to see if they were paying attention to the book. And this older gentleman, this elder, was walking by, and I didn't think he was paying attention, but he stopped halfway down the sidewalk, and then he ran back to the beginning, and then I just watched him really take in each panel of the story, and then he ran back to our table, and he said. He's Lao American. He was a refugee. He'd been here for over 30 years. He lived in South Minneapolis, near where his host mother lived. He had never seen his language in media before.
Wow.
Ever. And Samukta had postcards made up, promotional postcards of the book, and there were pages, illustrations. and some of them had the writing, and he went through and he picked out every single one that had his language on it. And I was like, just take them. You win life. You get all the postcards. And so from there, we've been doing it for, I think, like almost 5. This might be our 5th year.
Bless you.
So now we do first Saturday of every month, June through October, at Midtown Farmers Market.
Okay.
And now we get to, we have our story stroll. We have primarily BIPOC artists that we feature. We do a story stroll, story time. So that author who wrote that book comes and does a story time with the kids who come out at 10 a.m. We have 3 authors. So we have that featured author, then we have 2 more. And they come out and they hand out free books. So we're able to have 10 signed free books. So that authors can just share their books with the public, meet them, help them pick out a book if they get to take an additional book. And so you get to have this very casual, experience, interaction. This person becomes a touchstone for you.
Yeah.
They're real and they look like you. They're from the neighborhood. It's very neighborly. And from there we expanded to, we just have in August a new one starting, but exhibits at MSP Airport, so that we put the books on up in a gallery, so you can walk through. If you got a squirmy, wiggly child, you could walk through and read a book. We were just at the Mall of America last year doing story times in the Rotunda with story strolls out on the Jumbotron, which is terrifying and wonderful. Cool, just trying to get out into these non-traditional spaces where people can come and feel comfortable and welcome, and you're not even expecting a literacy experience, but it's there, and you can take advantage of it.
Non-traditional spaces, because that's where we are.
Yes.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to find the people that you're looking for.
Yeah.
That you just popped up somewhere and you had a great experience. Yeah, because this is where we are.
Right. Yes.
Right? You came to us, and we can see us in these books. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I am an artist. I noticed some artist-related books.
Yes.
There'll never be enough time for us to be able to eat all this food. So I want to make sure I get to some of these questions that are important to me.
Yes.
Okay. Reflecting on your own books. Mm-hmm. I'm so curious about this Beyonce book.
Oh, yeah.
So the books like Beyonce, Shine Your Light.
Yeah.
How do you choose the figures you write about, and what messages do you hope they convey to young readers?
So, I was really lucky to be able to write that book about Beyonce. I mean, all my books. I feel so lucky. And I pick people who inspire me. I pick people who I relate to because I love to say I relate to Beyonce. But I do because... she started out super shy. She started out with this very small voice that she wanted to share with the world. That's something that's very relatable. And most people I didn't know that about her when I was first, thinking about her. And, but I feel like if I can relate to something in her, then it's more authentic. I'm not trying to force, pay attention to this person, because that's what is making me pay attention. And then other people might relate too. And then, it's important for me, I think, to, again, show how they got help to be this person. How one person isn't just one person. One person is, the tip of this iceberg of community and family and hopes and dreams and, all of the people, all of the momentum of life has gone into this person. And then how they are a hero because they are then sharing their gifts. And before we started, we were talking about creating space for the next generation, for the new folks who are going to come in and do big things. And all of the people I write about are like that. They're not just, they have their own incredible gift they're sharing. But what makes them a hero to me is how they're using that gift to reach out to others and lift up other people. So that's a big part of my work and my focus when I'm writing about people.
I love that we're having this conversation about things that positively affect young people, and directly outside the door, there's definitely a young person that's having an interesting time.
Yes. My mom instincts are like,
oh my, yes, and I'm the same way as a dad. I'm the same way. For those of you that don't know, KRSM is currently housed in Phillips Community Center, and the luck of the draw, there could be anything happening outside our door as a studio. It's a reminder of where we are.
Yes.
It's a reminder of how important it is what we're doing, and that we are in community, right? So it's just life happening all around us. Okay. Can you, and I got a couple more, all right. Can you provide some tips for parents on how to create diverse media diet for their children that includes books and songs and shows featuring a wide range of characters and stories?
Yeah, well, so I am very privileged to be a member of the Minnesota BIPOC Kidlit Creators Collective, which is a collective of authors and illustrators from Minnesota who care about, we stand in solidarity around issues that impact writers and creators of color. And we want to increase representation. And so if you go to, I'm not going to be able to say the www, but if you go to Minnesota BIPOC Kidlit Creators, you will find us, and you will find all of our books.
Minnesota BIPOC Kidlit Creators.
Yep.
Got it.
All our books. A lot of the people, all of the people there, are trying to be out in community too. So they do school visits. They do all the stuff. So that is an incredible resource. When you talk about music, I can't. Ella Jenkins. She's the best. I also know Mega Ran. So there's this kind of nerd hip hop guy that I love, Mega Ran. He has a new album out for kids. It's fantastic. But I would say go to your, I think libraries are criminally under-resourced. They're under-resourced, but also underused. Like, the wisdom in our librarians is just unfathomable. Yeah. Like, asking for support and help and books, and they will gather books for you. They love to help. My brother is a librarian assistant. I can't believe how much he knows. He's my little brother. He's not supposed to know all that stuff. But, librarians will help you. Go to Wild Rumpus or Moon Palace or Strive Bookstore, or, we've got Red Balloon. We've got these incredible independent bookstores, and these people care about our media. And they've been working really hard, I think, to especially engage diverse books and voices. And so, asking for help, asking for recommendations, I think these are our wisdom holders in our community that'll really be able to help.
Man, there's so much more we could talk about. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So what happened the last time I interviewed an author? My daughter ended up with books. So don't be surprised if I reach out to you to get some books for my daughters.
Sure.
How can people find out more about your books or Picture Book Parade? Where can we find you at?
Well, go. Our website is I'm sarahwbooks.com. Picture Book Parades is picturebookparade.com. I got in there early and fast, so I got the original handles. But especially look out for Picture Book Parade, because we have programming starting in June. We've got our new airport exhibit coming up. I'm going to be at the Flint Hills Festival at the end of May.
Okay.
So I'll be there giving out lots of information about the collective with other collective members. So we'll have a lot of artists and illustrators out there too that you can meet. Hopefully we'll be handing out some free books. And keep an eye on. I've got I'm at Sarah Eliz Warren on Facebook and Instagram and those places, so you can find out where I'll be. And I love to be a connector, so I will definitely be bringing people with me.
Hey, all right. So I hate to let her go because I think there's just so much more we could talk about. But that's all we got for you. That was a half an hour of lunch. It's at lunchtime, so hopefully you were kind of sitting down. I have this part of my show where I do songs from Pops, because my dad was a DJ.
Oh, wow.
And he listens to every single show. And I've already gotten messages from him while I'm interviewing you, like, great interview, son. That was great. So I know he's sitting down eating something or enjoying this little lunch that we had. So I appreciate you, Sarah, and you're always welcome to come back. Any shout outs you want to give to the listeners, anything like that, while you got like another minute or so?
Okay, well, I'll say check out More Than a Single Story. We've got incredible work happening, connecting people with big thinkers. That is one of the main places you can go to see incredible conversations happening. A lot of them online, some of them in community. More Than a Single Story is one of my favorite resources. The Loft Literary Center, if you want to become a writer, check out the Loft Literary Center. They've got all kinds of programming.
I agree.
Teachers make great writers. So if you are a teacher, I go for it. Take those classes. Email me if you want more information about any of that stuff. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for listening. You can hear a recording of this show at littlemomentscount.org/podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Little Moments Count, you can visit their website at littlemomentscount.org. Sarah, thank you very much for feeding my listeners.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Glad to have you on.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.